as we get ready to do what we do best, put the work in and make sure we stay on the right side of not only the most important trade that matters, but markets overall. Cassidy, I saw that. Does anyone know one of the candidates running for president of Poland, who is a holder, is pro Bitcoin, is saying that if he wins the election, he'll be adding or beginning a Bitcoin strategic reserve for Poland. Does anyone know what his odds are in the election? Is it on Polymarket? Can we get some real probabilities of what's happening and taking place? Absolutely incredible to hear. As also at the same time, Michael Saylor on the bid once again, adding another 51,780 Bitcoin, now holding 331,200 Bitcoin. And this over here this is Blackrock's IBIT after 211 days, holding $40 billion of Bitcoin, adding 10 billion in 1 week, annihilating any previous records by a factor of ridiculous. Now in the top 1% of all ETFs by assets. Do you think it's stopping here? Do you think this is reminiscent of what happened once the gold ETF was launched and the mega bull that gold went under? Do you think that these people are just getting started or that they are late? November, living up to its name over here. Currently, Bitcoin up 28% on the month, putting back-to-back gains on the table ahead of December. We've never seen a period where September, October, and November were positive and December was not. So we got a lot of momentum here. Actually, more momentum than I expected. I thought like when we were just breaking out of that massive consolidation since the middle of March, we were saying, okay, if Bitcoin has a really good November and December, then it's possible if things go really well by the end of December, we could tag that 100K Bitcoin. Except things have obviously continued to unfold extremely well. Bitcoin now 6-7% away from tagging into that next bit of structural resistance above, and we are roughly 8.5% away from Bitcoin $100,000. What happens if we were to see like this is so silly, but let's just take a look. So we have over here, 12% in the previous December. This was the top of the bull run. This was a mega run. But this wasn't. 2016 is probably where we are at if you're like aligning cycles. That was a nice 30% return. Let's just pretend that we had a nice like 15% return. Bitcoin here trading well above $100,000. It's beautiful to see. Let's keep going over here. We have this chart. I hope you got to see this over the weekend out on X. And speaking of 2016, we were just looking in December of 2016. That's right over here. And it like what we're seeing right now, this is the dollar index below, the DXY. And it reminds me a lot of what was happening back in 2016 into early 2017. As the dollar was consolidating, Bitcoin had just been that grinding rise, right? 2017 is when things got really exciting. And as the dollar has been consolidating once again, we're seeing that 2016-esque grinding rise, except that we are already ahead. I'm going to go to December of 2016. Price not yet making new all-time highs. Obviously, one of the things that is really different this cycle is that we are already trading at new all-time highs. That's extremely bullish. I don't think, and when we get to the next slide, we'll talk about it. I'll pause 1 second. Notice that prior to the dollar's consolidation, there was this really steep rise, and that was during the bear market of Bitcoin. It reminds us, obviously, what happened here. If anyone would have known, rate shock coming in 2022, Bitcoin is not immune. And we did see a very sharp rise as Bitcoin went into the bear market, consolidating since. We take a look at what's going on with the dollar now, and it looks ever since the Fed cut 50 basis points, dollar has been bid. And then when Donald Trump won the US election, dollar continued to go strongly bid. It's still, I mean, would you all be surprised? I'm just going to look at this one level. Here's a level of support that became resistance, resistance, resistance. It looks like a big level. It's a big number, 110. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we rose in between this just below 108 into 110 area at any point in time. We're watching to see what would a breakdown look like. And the earliest indication of any type of breakdown would just be a simple sell impulse. It's very sharp angle over here. Nevertheless, we're looking right now. It would have to be trading below 105. And you would see also the break of what was resistance over there at the same time. So we're far right now from seeing any type of breakdown on the dollar, but you never know when these things develop. I know that when we did a great job on this. We did a great job on yields on the 10-year, right? In this area over here as the Fed raised rates. Most people were expecting the dollar to sell off violently. The opposite is happening. We could see sharp moves at any time. It's the markets. And the next time we do see the dollar begin its descent is when Bitcoin should really, really, really get going over here. Bitcoin right now, as the dollar consolidates, a lot of people are looking at the rising dollar. I'm just looking and saying, well, the dollar's been consolidating. And you can see this was the sharp rise in the dollar. And then since then, we've been in this pattern over here, consolidating pretty hard. Could the dollar go above 110? What would happen if Trump were elected and then, the negotiating power of the tariffs actually caused someone to, like the Trump administration, to have to actually put up? Could we see a definitely even a new high on the dollar? Of course we can. If you just look at what happened over here, by the way, I don't think it's relevant, but you could see from the red zone over here where the dollar, before it started consolidating, the dollar ultimately did peak higher than that. Is it possible that happens again? For sure, I'm more focused on when the breakdown comes into play. That breakdown came in the first quarter of 2017. It came right between, I'll say, February and March. And if that were to happen again, I have it over here into middle of February. Is anyone aware of seasonalities on the US dollar? But that's something that I will be watching. And my expectations are that why now? We're on the right side and the dollar here has been jumping up. At any point in time, we could see a reversal of that. When we do see a reversal of that, things should get really interesting. And that's when Bitcoin should really shine. I was looking at this chart. I pulled up this chart. I hadn't seen this chart in a long, long time, probably since some point in 2023. And it was so appropriate, the timing of pulling up this chart, as price is now on the verge of entering the ultimate market opportunity. Now, you can see this is the chasm. Like Bitcoin has to still make it through. This is the first phase, is the hype phase, right? Second is the facing reality stage. And then the third is the ultimate market opportunity. Before we talk about Bitcoin, a lot of people are not understanding or what it actually we're presenting over here. And this is simply how S-curve adoption works and plays out. There's three stages: the hype stage, the facing reality stage, and then the ultimate market opportunity. I think most people right now are expecting, even though things are wildly different, things are so similar, 4-year cycle related. A lot of people point to global liquidity and the tie between Bitcoin and global liquidity. But things are also different. We are seeing Bitcoin just prior to the halving, making a new all-time high, and then now consolidating above all-time highs as it begins its move out. That is wildly different. I just want to point up Amazon. And if you remember during the dot-com bubble, this is when Amazon was going through the hype phase. And then, they were not profitable. They had a lot of debt. People were worried that Amazon might go bankrupt. A lot of people were worried. Was it Bill something? I forget his name. He is, what's his name? Bill something, legendary investor. He wound up taking a really big position in Amazon. He took a really big position early on in Bitcoin as well. And you think maybe he understands what S curve adoption is and what it means. And then you go through the facing reality stage. And for what that looked like for Amazon was definitely the dot-com bubble burst, right? Then you had the great financial crisis as well. And coming out of the great financial crisis, it was shortly thereafter. It was around 2012 that the NASDAQ started making new all-time highs. You could see that Amazon was already making new all-time highs. This was when they really had been making a big imprint in not only their retail distribution, but also in cloud computing. And they started racking up just really, this was the ultimate market opportunity. Amazon had jumped the chasm from the early adopter stage to the early majority. And look what happened with price as it enters this phase. It's not just Amazon. I'm showing you Amazon because it's easy for me to pull up Amazon and look at it. Bill Miller, the legendary Bill Miller. You could do this with Microsoft. What's interesting with Microsoft, it has the same exact pattern. Obviously, Microsoft was not launched in 97. This wasn't because it was the run up to the dot-com bubble burst. What's interesting about Microsoft is Microsoft enters the ultimate market opportunity and then winds up leveling out, going flat for an extended amount of time until roughly 2015, when their cloud computing started being an absolute monster and generated a ton of revenue. And then Microsoft entered a new ultimate market opportunity. It's Bill Miller. Bill Miller, absolute legend, early believer and adopter of Amazon, early believer and adopter also of the Bitcoin. So, man, if you pick one and you lean in and you hold that long, you're good to go. He's picked more than one. He's picked a couple of really good ones, and he's a legend for it. But back when he was leaning into Amazon, it was not clear that Amazon was indeed going to make it. No one knew really what the internet was. Remember, originally they were like, we're selling books. People were like, you know what I'm saying? So it's easy in hindsight looking back. Is a similar thing happening with Bitcoin? Or will it be obvious to everyone looking back that Poland takes a strategic reserve? I don't know whether or not the United States will or will not take a strategic reserve. I mean, it'll be interesting to see if the bill, is put up for a vote and gets passed, and it could very well happen. I'm like, I'm 50-50. I don't really want to get my hopes up, but it's interesting that that's what's being talked about. And if that were to happen, and then as a response, what's going to happen? I mean, is Poland the only country in Europe that would follow suit, assuming that their president, the person running for president were to get elected? Or are you going to see every single G7 country having no choice but to go ahead and also take a Bitcoin position? And then what does that do to BRICS? It's nice that, we want to be involved with gold, but ultimately, if all roads lead to Bitcoin, I mean, you could see how I would never expect in 2024 that we would be having even a conversation about not some other small country adopting Bitcoin, but the United States of America potentially taking a strategic reserve. You could see the difference. We're no longer in the early adopter phase. You could see that we are in the early majority. An early majority, this is where all of the magic happens up until you get to the late majority. And that's when you will see for sure diminishing returns in play. But 4-year cycle aside, the price action likely doesn't resemble anything like 4-year cycle going further, and probably resembles a lot more what ultimate market opportunity looks like. Now, it is possible, by the way, if the Trump didn't win and the Harris administration won, and we like depending on like what their position was, we don't know if it was favorable or not towards Bitcoin and crypto. Doesn't seem nearly as favorable as the new administration will be. Bitcoin could have still have been under a lot of pressure into that facing reality stage. But right now, things are definitely looking different. It's nice to say you are an early adopter, and now the early majority is coming and coming on very strong. Wall Street is here, and this isn't just some other ETF. This is a juggernaut of an ETF. We have MicroStrategy continuing at the bid, and we also have a lot of other public companies deciding that they too want to start keeping a Bitcoin reserve. MicroStrategy shareholders will soon be voting on it. Look at this. We also had down over here the ultimate market opportunity, but I think that we are entering it right now. I think that we have entered the ultimate market opportunity, and this cycle will likely be a lot different than past cycles. What happened? What about liquidity? I wish we could, maybe I could do this. It won't work. Let me pull up a chart of Microsoft. See, remember I told you that Microsoft went flat for a long time into 2015 when its cloud computing services really took off, and then it entered a second ultimate market opportunity. But this is, let me just go down and there we go. So Microsoft hype phase. Microsoft's facing reality stage is a lot different though, for sure. Why is that? Well, Microsoft had a monopoly on the world when it came to operating systems, right? And then I suppose you could say blue screens of death at the same time. Nevertheless, you could see very clearly where things change for Microsoft, and that is as the internet boom begins. Notice over here, oh, this is actually, so time out and rewind. For those that were here with me, dinosaurs, this is when Microsoft had the enormous monopoly on all operating systems throughout the world. It was the ultimate market opportunity for Microsoft. And then as the launch of the .com came, you could see that this was almost like a second facing reality stage for Microsoft. We saw major competitors enter the market. Apple became a juggernaut themselves after being actually saved by Microsoft. They then took an enormous share out of the PC market from Microsoft themselves. And during this boom of the internet, because we always talk about the .com bubble burst, but this area here is actually the boom of the internet, and Microsoft had a lot of competition. That was almost more of their facing reality stage. I think they were able to make it out of it into a second ultimate market opportunity. No. I meant just alive. I meant just alive. We're looking today at Bitcoin barely holding through the weekend. It's re-entry, still holding on to that position, barely into profit right now. But Cardano continues to roar, now holding an open position, 102% into profit. Neither you nor me would have thought that Charles would be meeting with the incoming administration, talking about whether or not they're going to be used in as far as some type of blockchain voter ID in conjunction with Hydra, with Doge, and another one. I'm not really sure what it is. Charles is also talking about that he wants to be the layer 2 decentralized layer on top of Bitcoin. Either which way, for us, it doesn't matter. When momentum kicks, we're all over it. And that's where we are right now with Cardano. Here's that entry that was under pressure on Bitcoin. It wound up holding through, still holding on to that trade currently. Bitcoin bull run, finally building and holding an open trade over here. now 41% into profit. Its average trade is 64%. So, and if it catches one, it's not going to let go. When I say if it catches one, if you come back over here and you look at what happened, we'll look at the last bull market and you go to 2000, look at that. Gray means you're just out of the market. What a beauty. Out of the market, right? And then you could see the last bull. I'm just going to go to the entry. I just want to get an idea of when it was, right? You see April 2020, Bitcoin bull run entering the market, holding that trade all the way until a year later, 13 months later, exiting the market. A beauty, to say the least. Zoom out over here and you could see what an amazing opportunity to know when the potential of some type of momentum is kicking strongly to the upside or when you should just be out of the market. We also like to look at BTC 107 on the sell side for when you're out of the market as a place to go ahead. And if you're interested in trading, look with a very strong weapon here to be able to compound on the downside. Ethereum on CTM 2.0 remains out of the market, still on the sidelines. CTM 2.0 holding through that drawdown and now potentially getting the opportunity to rise up. We talked about how Ethereum holds on to trades a lot longer than Bitcoin. Bitcoin is very quick to lock in profits and take them out. Cardano trades a lot more like Ethereum. It holds on to those trades. You can see nowhere close to leaving this. Cardano also gives back a sizable amount of profits, about 1/3 of its profits. So it's just how they're developed. That's how they work. Solana remains also like Ethereum out on the sidelines. Daily now holding open trade 51% into profit, taking back all that drawdown plus more. After this trade closes, we'll retire the daily. We're just going to be on the 8-hour over here, and we're waiting here for the next entry on Solana. But it's beautiful to see. And again, you could just go back over here, and it's going to remind everyone that doesn't use or utilize buy-side boost. And as Bitcoin took this entry here, even though Cardano wasn't in the trade at the time, so Bitcoin took a full account allocation. It ran up 8-9% and then exited for Cardano, that 25% allocation. Cardano now putting that capital to really good use with a 100% gain. But even though you see Ethereum on the sidelines and you see Solana on the sidelines, well, they took a beautiful, beautiful 26% gain with that capital on that Bitcoin trade. Stocks over here, let's take a look. There's obviously Nvidia in the news today. And it felt like a hit piece to me. I don't know if that's the case. Nvidia is still down 2% on the day. Maybe it's not. But there's reports that the Blackwell rocks are facing overheating problems, signaling concerns for customers. A lot of revamping, right ready to shipment. There's a little nervousness out there from people. And for sure, Nvidia today is on the back foot. Nvidia down 2% off its low so far. But let's go ahead and take a look at what its low was. Opening up, dumping, didn't close the gap almost, and then selling off. Let's see what happens. This looks like it has the opportunity here to be some type of doji reversal pattern. I don't know. We'll find out. But the rest of the market is not really caring after Friday's strong sell-off. After Jerome Powell, markets broke down and started selling off ahead of it. But Jerome Powell basically saying, listen, we're not really in a rush to have to continue lowering rates. We saw a repricing of the market. This is looking at December's meeting, and you saw price go from an expectation of a hold from 21% in December up to 37%. So market's still pricing in and favoring by 60-40 that there'll be a 25 basis point cut. Same thing into January. Market went from a 7% chance that they would stay where they are today and now up to 26% from that next cut coming into the market from 36 to 54%. So there has been a strong repricing in the market after Powell's comments, and markets initially selling off on that. Looks like they're trying to stabilize right now, even with Nvidia, a cause for concern in the market. As that's happening, we are seeing, by the way, Mara also, right? They're raising some money to put some Bitcoin on their balance sheet. I wonder why Coinbase is not at this particular point in time. If you look and you see TQQQ out on the sidelines, Nvidia right now has a closing long pending. That exit will actually, if it's confirmed, occurs tomorrow morning on market open. FNGU holding an open position, 11% into profit, and Tesla also holding an open position into profit at 17% into profit. That's where we are today. I'm glad for the update. Per 06 is saying greetings from Poland. The chance of this candidate winning are very, very low, practically impossible. Maybe next time, and that's good to know. And it's also still so positive that these conversations are even being had. Beautiful. Hunter, we're getting rid of, now that it's back at all-time highs, we'll be getting rid of it. I don't think it's nearly as elegant a solution as on the 8-hour, but just a heads up, as we move towards the launch of V3, it's been 14 months since CTM 2.0 CTMX entered the market. Massive work has been going on behind the scenes. Incredible big shout out to the dev team, specifically Hey You and the Summit team, who's been really helping and participating. And on V3, we're looking at on crypto the 8-hour time frame. Like, we're not going to have daily because the 8-hour is so consistent and so strong. That's where we're gonna be hanging out. Stocks will continue to have both the 1-hour time frame during regular market hours and also the daily time frame. That's where we are today. Great insight from the ground. I very much appreciate that. I hope you all have a beautiful day, CTM, as we simply enjoy being on the right side of the market at the right time. We have to take a look over here, a couple more things before I get off. I'm just going to extend this line out. Did we come into on Friday? Traded above it. Interesting. I'm going to watch that if we break down from there at any point in time. We continue to find this channel upside resistance on the 10-year. Is there a good chance that they put in their top? My expectations are this one has, and just like the dollar, we crushed this all the way to where we are, and we haven't looked to exit that trade. A break of this trend line would be the first opportunity. I would be expecting a pullback or a pullback or a pullback, and then yields ultimately making a higher high likely. This is just going off of the past 2 times when Fed has cut and you've seen such a reaction in the 10-year. This one has actually exceeded the both prior to after a pullback right around this time. This one's actually elevated a little longer, have came in for a pullback, and then ultimately made back higher highs. That's what I'm looking to hang out over here. But ultimately, I think that contrary to popular belief, remember, when we were looking to sell bonds, most people were looking for them to go strongly bid. Eventually here, I think that we're getting closer to a point in time, even if you're going to look out and you're going to say over the next decade, we're expecting longer term duration to be elevated. What happens with this week, probably one of the biggest news is the appointment by Trump of the U.S. Treasury Secretary. And what happens with the buybacks and all the Yellen programs? I wonder. All right, everyone. God bless you. Have a beautiful day. I'll see y'all back on the inside.